Hey family, it's Netta with Black Lives Count, and I'm back at you with another video. So family, we see what's going on in Mexico City or Mexico, right? In Puerto Vallarta and those surrounding areas with the cartel. So apparently the cartel boss was unalived and by government officials, and it made the cartel come out in huge numbers, and they are terrorizing, everywhere around the city and the area. And so they even had to lock down the airport because there were people trying to get out or people that were coming in. They had to halt all the airlines in and out, and they had to have the I don't know if it's like their army or whatever at the airport to to ensure that nobody was taken, because the cartel is threatening to take anybody, kick in people's doors and unalive them because of the unaliving of this man who was their boss, the cartel boss. It's just a big damn mess is what it is. And so what I want to discuss is how this kind of affiliates to some things that have occurred here in America, okay? See, and that happens abroad in other places. See, the United States government, unfortunately, has been terroristic in a lot of its operations that it has completed, not only here in America, but around the world, okay? And everybody, understands this, and we know it. Back in the day, and, they used to put all kind of stuff in the black community, and we've had this discussion before in a few of my other videos that I have done about how they dropped drugs in the black community. They would put guns, they would leave trucks, with guns that were in the trucks, and it was open so anybody could go in there and get it. And, as a ploy to get some of these young black men that were out there to go in and take the guns, and then they're using them guns for different things. This government has had its hand in a lot of let's say things that were very, if people knew everything that has been done, things that are very disgusting for a government to do to its citizens, okay, but they're continuing what they have been always, and they're still doing it. So anyway, they do the same things with other countries, Mexico, say the continent of Africa, and anywhere else that they feel that they want to do this, okay. So in Mexico, it is apparent, that the United States government has helped the cartel, even though they say and tell Mexico they need to get rid of the cartel, this, that, and other. There has been evidence that demonstrates that they haven't always stood by what they have said. So I'm going to read a snippet, family, and it's from the Rolling Stone. It's an article that's in the Rolling Stone, and Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use. I want to say that before I begin. So the title of this article is called How the United States Arms the Mexican Cartels. In an exclusive excerpt from the new book Exit Wounds, author Levi, I think it's Joshanti, I hope I'm not butchering the name, traces the deadly pipeline of assault weapons into the hands of organized crime. As we just said, how they dropped the guns in the black community back in the 70s so that the young men would have access to guns and stuff. It's called a setup. It's what it's called. What are American guns doing in Mexico? This question first came to me nearly a decade ago while working as an EMT treating wounded migrants who were risking their lives trying to cross the U.S. border. I wanted to understand what role high-powered weapons easily brought in the U.S. played in turning Mexico, their home, into a country they had to flee. Over the next 5 years, I followed American guns from dealers in Arizona and Texas across the border and into the hands of organized crime groups in Mexico. As they have competed for control over trafficking routes to supply drugs to the U.S. market, these groups have built arsenals of weapons, including military-style semi-automatic rifles like AR-15s and AK-47s. And we all know that these people in the United States are running rampant around here, taking folks out in schools and stores and stuff with AR-15s, okay? Right? We know that. And also with the AK-47s, okay? The cartel snipers have used these weapons to attack the Mexican security forces. I talked to smugglers and buyers and to youth forcefully recruited by gangs and cartels. I also spoke with journalists covering organized crime and to officials and federal agents on both sides of the border who are trying to stop gun trafficking. Usually guns in Mexico don't make much of a ripple in the States. Then Operation Fast and Furious happened. Okay? Now, this is one of the things that our government does. This excerpt from his new book, Exit Wounds, How America's Guns Fuel Violence Across the Border, recounts what happened during this dark episode in the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, history, and the consequences that the agents' actions and inactions have had on both sides of the border. On November 20th, 2009, Mexican soldiers in Naco, Sonora, stopped a 21-year-old woman driving a truck with a .50 caliber Beowulf rifle and 41 AK-47s. She said she was transporting the guns to Sinaloa. A few weeks later, over 300 miles west in the border town of Mexicali, Baja California, the Army seized another arsenal of 41 AK-47s and AR-15s. See, these guns and weapons are being transported. And let me tell you something. Just like you look at out there in Africa, in the different African countries, when they having all these different wars and stuff. And just like right now, okay, in the countries of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, where you have rebels, just because I think not this weekend past, but the weekend before that, they had a very bloody outburst where in Burkina Faso, where a bunch of rebels came in and they're fighting with the government. They're trying to take over that brother's country, which we know who's behind it. We know the West is behind it, but they do these things. They fund these things and they give these people and all of these different rebels and stuff weapons and stuff to fight the government. Because when you do that, you cause chaos. And when you have chaos, they can get control. Just like in the black community. When the Panthers were, the reason why they started putting guns and stuff in our community, see, once they had got rid of the Panthers, and there were all these different gangs, because see, the Panthers was keeping the gangs out of the communities. But once the federal government had disposed of the Panthers, then the gangs could come in and fight amongst each other, and how the government controlled that and ensured that. That's how they dropped them weapons. That's how they also put the crack cocaine in the black community. They put the crack cocaine in the black community to create an issue, an epidemic, so to speak, a drug epidemic of people using drugs that, and they went in, as a result of that, tearing up the homes and the community. They were snatching out people. See, like right now with this opioid addiction and all these other addictions that white folks are having, they want to, give a hand of hope. They want to give them help. They say they have addiction problems. Yet when it was the crack addiction, this was not going on. It's the same demeanor that they use in this country against us that they take outside the country and use it on others. See, and so this is why when people are coming from other communities and coming into this country and looking down on foundational black Americans, but the reason you left your country is because America, and it wasn't foundational black Americans, America caused your country to become unstable. They destabilized it where you had to run your ass over to this one. See, and you're not getting that, so you come here with that nasty demeanor. But this article that Rolling Stone wrote, it just shows the things that they do. So let's continue. We're going to go down a little further. Tracing the AK seized in Sonora and Baja California was the task of the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. The agency, better known by its acronym ATF, was initially part of the U.S. Department of the Treasury, where its main mandate was enforcing federal alcohol and tobacco tax laws. In 1968, following the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, which they all knew about, orchestrated and knew about it, President Lyndon B. Johnson formed the National Commission on the Causes and Prevention of Violence, whose recommendations led to the passage of the Gun Control Act. Soon after, ATF began overseeing violations of federal laws involving firearms and explosives. I want to scroll down a bit. So to trace a gun, the agent has to submit a request to the personnel at the National Tracing Center in West Virginia, providing a description of the gun and its serial number. Then people at the tracing center begin making calls. They call the manufacturer, or if the gun is foreign made, the importer. They dictate the serial number and ask which wholesale distributor the gun went to. Next, they call the distributor and ask for the name of the dealer that ordered the gun. Then they call the dealer. But the dealers don't keep a lot of the dealers don't keep electronic records either. So when they get a call from the tracing center, the manager has to look through file boxes many times, often. Hopefully some of them are now keeping better records to find the transaction of whoever purchased the firearm. So this person that wrote this article, they I guess obtained through some of the guns that they obtained in Sonora in Mexico. They got the serial numbers and they went to trace it. And they were able to trace it all the way back right here to the United States. Okay, let me see where we at. ATF agents in Phoenix who reviewed the tracing reports and guns confiscated in northern Mexico in late 2009 went through this process. Let me see. Okay. So they traced it all the way down to a dealer who said on October 31st of that year that 4 men had come into the store and purchased the firearms. Okay, had purchased like 21 different AK. Now, first of all, seriously, 21 AK-47s. Who is coming into the store? If you're not a dealer and you're coming into the store and buying 21, and so we already know they were not black. Because had they been black, they wouldn't have been able to buy them guns. In fact, they probably would have been arrested that night, okay? I'm sure that they would have flagged them. I'm sure that law enforcement would have been flagged, and they would have flagged them, and they would have came in and rounded them up and took them in for questioning, and probably after that, God knows what they would charge them with. But they're going to find something to charge them. I want to go down. Let me see. Over the next few weeks, agents gathered more forms, I guess it's called 4473s, where they began to go through the purchases of the firearms. So let me see. It said, coordinated by the ATF's Phoenix Field Division, it was an operation that was conducted under the auspices of Project Gunrunner, a nationwide initiative launched in Laredo, Texas, that started in 2005, which sought to reduce the smuggling of firearms across the borders. So, in reality, the guns were being purchased and used for, they were saying that they were using them to prohibit crimes of people running guns across the border. Yet the guns somehow make it across the border, and then they're used by the cartel in all these different crimes. You know, like I said, it's the same story and situation what occurs over in the continent of Africa, and really many countries, you know, but especially Africa, you know, where they will send over, they'll have, like the Boko Haram. The Boko Haram over in Africa, over in Nigeria, and all those regions over there, they didn't come way by themselves. Those groups, and it's been proven, you know, there's been investigations done that those groups are funded from the West. Now, why would the West be funding terrorist groups like that over in Africa? You remember when the was it 300 or 400 girls were taken out of the school in Africa, and they were captured and taken hostage by that group Boko Haram? See, all of these things add up, and what it adds up to is that our government have their hands in a lot of places where government should not have their hands in. They really should not. Because being involved in the criminal activity, in the gun running and all, what is going on? You know, see, it's a long time that things have been occurring that are, it's not right. It's not appropriate, and it's not okay to have we have to just really focus as American citizens. We have to focus on our government. We have to ensure that we are electing officials that are not corrupt and cannot be brought out. We have to ensure that we are diligent in reviewing people's history. And if they get in office and are doing things that are that goes beyond the scope of what they should be doing, as far as especially with these companies, we should not be giving them our vote, because there's so many things that are going on in this country that is just really downright disgusting. It really is. I just think we have to understand that right now, I don't think there's anybody in that White House, that Senate, or the Congress, and I'm talking about on both sides, there's not an honest bone in there. Just really, it's not possible. I mean, when you look at everything that's occurring and things even before this administration, everybody wants to point the finger at just this administration. This shit has been going on in every administration. What are you talking about? In every administration. And it continues. A lot of people are concerned about their taxes. A lot of people are concerned about their wages. A lot of people are concerned about their life skill, because first of all, at the rate of companies are closing and the things that are occurring, a lot of people are concerned, and that is rightfully so. But we better stop burying our heads in the sand and pretending that we don't see what is going on, and what is actually going on is going on. Because we're living, we can't continue to go like this. I don't have a problem with the immigration policies being upheld. I don't have a problem with that. Not at all. But we as foundational Black Americans, we got to, for real, we got to rethink. And we got to separate from this system. Because this system is not right, and has not been right, and it's not going to be right for us. And to be honest with you, we haven't even gotten acclimated to it, because we can't. Because it doesn't align with us. It doesn't align with who we are. It's just a very tumultuous, disgusting system. And we have to withdraw from it. A government that can do the things that this government has done to our people in this country. And I'm talking about the Tuskegee. I'm talking about every aspect of slavery, because people can say, oh, it was slavery everywhere. Other places people were slaves, other people were slaves, but nothing touched the transatlantic slave trade. Nothing could touch that. The raping alone of men, women, and children was enough to blow them out the park from anybody, okay? Not to mention everything else they did afterwards, and everything that they are still doing today. We can't trust the government that attacks their own. We know there are governments that attack others. But when your government attacks your own too. See, yeah, if they can give weapons to Mexico, to the cartel, and they can give weapons to Boko Haram and other terrorists, ISIS and stuff, the same groups that they say they're fighting, but when they can bring them home and put them in the midst of their own citizens within their own country, where children can get access to them, we have to really think about who we're aligned with. But I thank you so much for watching the video. I thank you for joining. I thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing. I'm going to say, we have really some hard discussions that we have to have as a community, because it's so important. And if we have to keep having these conversations, then we just have to keep having these conversations. But we're going to have to come to a realization where we know where we got to go. All right, family. I hope that you enjoyed. Please take care. I'll see you in the next video. Peace, love, and blessings, and Black Power. All right, family. Bye-bye.